I have today a lovely treat with Cassie Mason from HR Precision, her own business that she bought, how many years ago, Cass?
6 years
6 years
now.
ago. You're an old hag at it now,
I
aren't
know.
you?
I know.
And it's all about human resources, employment contracts, work health and safety, which she's done at our office, and have I left anything out?
Oh, I mean recruitment and selection,
Recruitment,
things
yes,
like that.
very
Yep.
important. And she just told me she talks for a living,
Yeah.
so she's capable of
Many things.
entertaining us in our podcast. So welcome,
Thank you very much.
Cass.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. We've got a couple of topics today that I'd like to talk about, which I think are topical at the moment, that's out and about in everyone's mind. The first one is the crazy one about the right to disconnect, so which was brought in
The last week of August.
August. That's right.
Yeah.
So I think it's mainly for people that businesses that are over. They're not a small business.
Correct. Yeah.
And then next year it's for the small businesses.
Yeah. Correct. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that legislation.
Yeah. Okay. So the right to disconnect, it's been coming in for a while now. I've sort of seen little bits about it coming in, but yeah, it officially got implemented the last week. I think it was the 26th of August.
Yeah.
So that is, like you said, for larger companies. So that's over 15 employees. So basically what it means is that it's giving employees now the opportunity to disconnect outside of their work hours. So basically taking out any opportunity for the employer to contact them outside of the hours that they work. So this is just, it's allowing for a lot of, freedom from the workplace, because we do find that employers are contacting employees at numerous hours. They might send emails at 1 a.m, 2 a.m. They're probably expecting a reply at those, at after work times and outside of those work hours. So it just is creating that solid separation from work. And
anxiety.
Yes, exactly. So it will come in for small businesses, like you said, in August next year, which will mean that it does impact a lot of people.
It will.
And
it doesn't really, so from what I understand, it doesn't impact those emergency situations.
No, absolutely right. So there are certain circumstances that do constitute as reasonable, and that might be things that are emergency situations, so one-off situations. So, if there is something that, if you're working in IT, for example, and there's a customer who's having a scam or an IT issue in the middle of the night, or at a time that's not considered your work hours, and the employer does request that you fix up that issue, then that is considered reasonable. If that was happening all the time, then no, it would definitely not be.
True.
Also, there are times when in employment contracts, reasonable outside hours might be expected and put into that employment contract, and so in those cases it is reasonable to work outside of your work hours.
Yes.
And if sometimes if you're kind of in a very high paying job, or your salary is high and it does include reasonable additional hours or something like that, then it is then that is included in that.
Okay.
And also if you do work on call, or in those sort of roles where you might expect a phone call. I know a lot of my plumbers that I work with, they have a roster where they are on call, and they have about 5 weeks in each. They have 5 weeks every 6 months that they're on call.
Right.
And so that is an expectation to obviously work outside of those hours.
So say, for example, like teachers.
Yeah.
Who are always communicating with parents and, on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or emails.
Yeah.
They're always on 24/7.
Absolutely. My brother's one. So.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So how does that, because that's a big organisation, so that'll apply to them.
It will.
So how does that?
Yeah. I mean, it really depends. Teachers are, it depends on what their contract states and what is within that contract, because sometimes in teachers' contracts, reasonable outside hours is expected.
Yes.
But it definitely does take away, and with that they might put what hours are expected in there.
Right.
But responding to parents at 9, 10 o'clock. no, that
No.
will definitely cut that out. And I think for all teachers, they will be very relieved.
Absolutely. So that would put a lot of onus back on the employer
Yeah,
to actually
absolutely.
provide
Yeah.
the guidelines,
Yes.
if you like.
Yes.
You know, I mean, going back to teachers, which is a classic example, you know, the department would have to then
Oh, definitely.
provide a policy
Yes.
that sort of stipulates all of that.
Sure. I would say the Department of Education right now is well worked that out in advance,
Yes.
I would say. So,
Yeah. I mean, you've got things like doctors that are on call.
Absolutely.
So, you know, emergency situations, which is fair enough.
Yes.
But I suppose you're just alluding to the fact that, you know, if I were to text one of my staff at 1 a.m. in the morning saying, you know, by the way, 9 o'clock, we've got a new client coming in, that wouldn't be okay.
No, I mean, I do take into consideration that, you know, sometimes you want to get something done. You know what I mean? You just want to send that email because it's on your mind and you're thinking about it. It's more for the people who, you know, if you did that at 1 a.m., it's more if you had a reasonable expectation for that employee to action something. So, you know, if you're warning them about a meeting, it's not such a problem. It would be more if, you know, you're sending an email or a text message outside of hours expecting them to go and do something at that hour, you know.
Okay, so there's an expectation around an action item.
Yes, correct.
Rather than, hey, I've just looked at this job, the review's fantastic, you've done a great job, well done. And that could be at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever.
Yeah, and it's I mean, the employee's phone, work computer, hopefully they'll be asleep and well away from any technological devices at that hour.
One hopes, yes.
So they shouldn't see it until they get in the next morning. It's more if you were like, well, where were you at that time when I sent that message? Why didn't you do what I did? What I was requesting? Well, that's unreasonable.
Yeah.
So it's more about unreasonable requests outside of work hours versus, you know, I mean, I still wouldn't do it.
No.
I would still refrain from doing it, but yeah.
Yes, so there's obviously going to be some testing of that legislation and the laws and cases, etc.
Absolutely.
Dispute resolution, how will small businesses be able to resolve this?
Yeah, well, I mean, Fair Work set out some guidelines, and that's a policy that I've actually written and have started to implement to some of my clients.
Okay.
And it's more, we try and resolve it internally. So before we do send it, you know, that is the worst case scenario is sending it off to the Fair Work Commission.
Right, okay.
To be, you know, for the case to be looked at. But before we do that, you know, most of the time I would say it can be resolved internally.
So employees should go back to their employer to resolve it?
Absolutely.
Right. And then if that's not resolved, then go to Fair Work.
Yes.
Is the process.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Well, I mean, everyone's going to have to get their head around this, not only employers but also employees as to what that means and where they sit with it. But what I can see is obviously for employers there's a lot more administration and compliance in this and a lot more regulation and administration. So who's going to monitor that? Who's going to track that if that is an issue? So I suppose it's just up to your written notes and your accountability or your compliance, if you like.
Yes.
So, impact on employees, disputes and etc. What is best practice? So that I think will evolve over time, won't it?
Well, we haven't seen too much of it yet,
no,
you know, because it is so new. So it will be interesting to see sort of what comes out from it.
Yes.
But yeah, it's too soon to tell at this stage.
Yeah, and then what are the future implications on that? You know, how does that impact workplace culture? You know, because if people aren't doing that, so I just want to flip that on its head and go, well, what about those that are actually in work on their computers and not actually doing the work?
Yeah.
You know, on their social media or doing something like that.
Well, that's a whole different story, really.
Okay, we don't have time for that one. Okay. Thought I'd throw in a curly one.
No, that's a whole different story. I think it all comes down to what expectations and standards the employer puts in place, you know, and to tackle this moving forward and any other, I guess, legislative requirements or changes that move forward. It's really important that you do have, I guess, the documentation to support what you're putting in place. And so with this right to disconnect, new laws coming out, that's where it's really important to change your policies, to write new policies, to ensure that everything, even to update and renew employment contracts that state, what are the work hours? What are your reasonable expectations outside of work hours?
Well, there's another question. Do we need to update our employment contracts?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. It depends how they're written, who they're written by, what it says in them as such, but it is a really good wake-up call, I think, this new law to say, okay, what is stipulated in there, and is it something that, have we documented it well enough that it will, I guess, hold up if something happened or something like that.
Well, we don't want to be the test case.
No, definitely not. No.
Not at all.
I'm sure a lot of employers do respect those boundaries naturally, and I think this is in place for those people who just don't. You know what I mean? So it's not for everybody, but it's for those few that don't respect it.
Enough people have done it.
Yeah,
because
for this to be a
brought
thing.
this in.
Yeah,
so
correct.
Fair Work must have seen a lot of cases or complaints about this.
Yes, no, absolutely.
And I suppose we're living in a a mobile world now, aren't we? So our emails are everyone's emails are on their phones. It's easy to pick it up and do.
Yeah, I find that frustrating myself. Yeah,
and like we were saying before, off camera, it's like you just don't turn off.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I know I don't turn off.
And as a business owner, you'd know that.
Yes.
And employers just don't. So I suppose this is a bit of a wake up call for employers to go,
definitely.
hey, step back.
Definitely.
And because I think our life is very busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And emails tend to drown about 2 hours of my day.
Same. And I think that it will have an opposite effect, not an opposite. It will have a good effect, because realistically, as a result from this, hopefully that will build the culture. It will increase employee morale. It will have an effect that is a positive one.
Yes.
Because maybe employees will be they might be better rested. They might have had more time outside of work to recover and rejuvenate, and then they can come back to work and be more productive.
Very true.
So I think it will have a really positive effect. It would might take a little while for us to, I guess, catch on and see those changes. Yeah.
Well, I suppose it would be good because you're going to have the big boys doing it, and then we're going to
let's do it next year.
So we can sort of piggyback on the back of them, which is absolutely.
And I still think
great.
It's a law as of next year, but I still think small businesses should be doing it from now. Like, don't wait till next August.
No.
Do it now. Implement those policies now. Stay ahead of the game, because I think that realistically it should have been this way the whole time.
Yes.
So be proactive about implementing it, and follow the big boys.
That's it.